Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and I think it makes no sense at all to be a maximalist of any cryptocurrency on the planet. You know what it leads to? It just leads to tribalism and toxicity. I don't think there's any denying that. There is an insane amount of toxicity in the world of crypto, and it just comes down to the people that are they have opinions based on their emotions and their ideology rather than doing their best to be objective and just look at the facts and then make decisions based on that and determine how they feel based on that. And so I'm going to share with you a Twitter thread that got me thinking about this, and I got a few things to say about this, but before we go any further, if you would please delicately tap that like button, and also if you are a fan of Ripple and XRP, and you also are not a fan of Maximalism of any coin, go ahead and subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel. You're going to fit in just fine here. Now, to be clear, I think everybody knows what maximalism is, but there's always new people coming into the space. Maximalism is a term that gets widely used in the world of crypto to represent an individual that thinks that there is one super-duper coin, the rest are garbage, they're all going to go to zero in terms of price, and in terms of value, they have nothing to offer, or they're just redundancies, and so these maximalist types, they will support just one coin of their choice. The rest are S-word coins. And that's what they like to call them. And it's completely irrational for a number of reasons that I'm going to cite in this video. And so I don't even care whether you're a maximalist of Bitcoin or XRP, doesn't matter to me. Just stop doing that. It doesn't make any sense. But let's highlight this. So there's a tweet that was put out from Leah Halpern. I may be saying that correct. I'm not sure. And you may have seen her before. She's in crypto media specifically. I don't know what organization she works for, but there have been a number of occasions where I've seen her doing interviews with people, and she's sitting behind a desk like it's a news outlet. So it's obviously just crypto, and it's still a news outlet. And it doesn't list in her Twitter profile where she works, so I can't highlight that, and I just can't recall. But I believe she even she even interviewed an XRP community member that you may be familiar with, named Matt Hamilton, who is quite the wealth of knowledge, and he's at Hammertoe on Twitter. And I believe it was her that interviewed him for quite a while, and he really, Hammertoe just nailed it in terms of what XRP actually is. And kind of how it's silly the way that Bitcoin maxi trolls speak about it and have it positioned within their mindset. But anyway, Leah wrote the following. It's 2030. Is Bitcoin still king? Which alts have survived? So is Bitcoin still number one in market cap, and have any altcoins survived in the year 2030? Peter McCormick responded yes to answer the first question, and then none to answer the second question. So yes, it's still king in 2030, and no altcoins have survived. He's not being toxic here. This is maximalism, and I'd like to hide it just because of the illogical nature of it. Now, this guy, he's got 77,000 followers on Twitter, and he's running a podcast here, which I wasn't familiar with. It's called What Bitcoin Did, and he's got a respectable following, 11,900 subscribers there. And on Twitter for this, so he has a separate account for What Bitcoin Did, his podcast, which has over 8,000 followers. So, props to him for building his following. That's absolutely, totally respectable. And, of course, to be clear, nothing against him personally, but this is worth highlighting. That does not make any sense. And so I actually took this opportunity to respond and let him know how I feel, and he just decided to ignore me. Now, of course, when you have that many followers, he could have intentionally ignored. It's also the case, because look, I've only got, what do I have, I don't know. I think I have 6,500 followers, and even with just that, I get tagged in so much stuff that it's so easy to miss stuff. So it's certainly possible he may not have seen this. But Peter McCormick, although I don't really know a lot about him, I have seen him in my thread a lot. And it's pretty clear to me with the types of stuff that he writes that it's pretty much Bitcoin or bust for him. And so I responded by writing, I disagree. There will not be one coin to rule them all. Different cryptos have various attributes, and different people and businesses will value those various attributes for a number of reasons. one size fits all does not work in crypto. Pretty reasonable stance, right? And I really wish he had responded, because it would have been nice. It would have been kind of fun to have a little bit of back and forth on that. But, and I'm not going to state that, and again, like I said, I'm not stating that he's toxic. I just think that stance he has is irrational. I don't think so, because if you're willing to look at things objectively, because I don't know how you can make the case that, given that there are different technical attributes and given human nature that different people and different things, I don't know, you could reasonably make the case that there's just going to be one cryptocurrency, and that's going to sustain the entire asset class and all of people's needs the world over. And it's Bitcoin on top of that. This is what makes it even more silly. And the winner is Bitcoin, which happens to be the first cryptocurrency ever, which is incredibly slow, inefficient, and an energy hog. And still, that's the one, which makes it even more silly. If anything, even if you were right that it makes sense for one cryptocurrency to win the whole pie, which is, it's not going to happen. But even if one cryptocurrency was ultimately, were the case that would ultimately win all the business, all the use cases, all the adoption, would it really be Bitcoin? Because look, nothing against Bitcoin whatsoever from an ideological perspective from me. I'm just looking at this as realistically as possible, which is Bitcoin is slow. It does about 7 transactions per second. It's an absolute energy hog. And the network just doesn't scale. Now, you can talk about off-chain solutions like Lightning Network, but that requires Lightning Network. First of all, it doesn't work. Even if it did work, it requires a certain amount of centralization. And that seems to me to be completely antithetical to what Bitcoin is supposed to be in the eyes of these Bitcoin maxi trolls that are out there. Now, my fellow XRP YouTuber Jungle Inc. responded to my tweet, and he wrote the following. The attributes of the network play a role, but also the focus on the devs, so developers. Apple could build a phone, a search engine, or a social media platform, but they don't have the time and resources to do all three the best in the world. And I think that's a pretty reasonable concept. I mean, not that you literally can't multitask if you're a company, but it's best to not stretch yourself too thin. You can think about Brad Garlinghouse and his Peanut Butter Manifesto that he wrote, and if you don't know what that is, just Google Brad Garlinghouse Peanut Butter Manifesto and you can read it. And I've talked about it in the channel. I just won't in this video any further. But it's just the concept of spreading resources within a company too thin here. And so I responded to Jungle Link and he wrote the following. Firmly agree. Say devs build on top of a particular blockchain and notable adoption occurs. Let's say the developer is an authoritarian regime. That blockchain may have staying power, but other devs may refuse to build on that blockchain to avoid giving that regime power. And that's just one example, but we could come up with all sorts of others. Optics matter to businesses as well, and all of this will play into real-world adoption. The theory of only one coin surviving isn't a sophisticated theory, in my humble opinion, and I absolutely stand by those tweets. Yet some people don't seem to get that. And so where does this all stem from? And it's just a shame because, and it's not the case here, but for so many people, things get so tribal, they get so toxic, and I'm kind of sick of it. Because I have more fun engaging with people that want to have thoughtful discussion, and if it turns out that something I believe right now, if it turns out that it's not the most true thing that I could believe if I'm a little off or entirely off, I would like to know that so that I can stop being wrong. That is not where tribal people come from. That's not where maximalists tend to come from. Their stance, typically, from what I've seen, and it's probably true just about all of them, is it's defend my opinion at all cost, right or wrong, whatever the argument is. And I guess it's partly human nature, but the reason it's easy for me to not be like that is because I'm not attaching my identity to this stuff. But I think that these individuals are. I think that it's part of their identity. And if you're to tear down Bitcoin, if it's a Bitcoin maximalist, for example, then you're tearing down their identity and they take it personally. And it's unfortunate. And so I'm going to be a little bit more of an adult than that and just not respond that way. And that's how I treat everything in my life. By not making, things where you should think intellectually anyway, at least let's just say that. For things, whether it's, politics, whatever it is, crypto here in this case, just be willing to be open-minded and just think from a critical thinking perspective, what is actually important. If you want to believe the most true things, then maybe engage with people and don't let ideology blind you. But that's not what this individual is doing. And here's another example here, and this is kind of interesting to me. I was just scrolling through my feed and I saw this today as I was mapping out my video, and I was like, wow, this fits in perfectly. Here's a video this guy put up. I think it's like a 40-second clip. It's just playing silently in the background if you want to look at your screen. And it's just a video of him blocking XRP people. So here's what he wrote. This guy's name is Ray Santos Crypto, and he's a YouTuber also. I wasn't familiar with him. Although, interestingly, I highlighted him, and as it turns out, he is following me, and I don't know why. He should probably block me. Why should he block me? Because here's what he wrote. And this is, again, with the video where it's going on for 40 seconds or so here. He wrote, "Me blocking people that like XRP. I only want quality people, not complete dummies. XRP Moonboys, a delusional 589 BS crap." Well, I'll give him that the 589 stuff was always BS, but that was always a small element of the XRP community, and that's not really so much a thing anymore. So throwing that in there, it's just, to me, that's not the very genuine thing to do. But he says he only wants quality people, not complete dummies, yet he's willing to figuratively stick his head in the sand so as to not learn opinions that are different than his own. There you go. People suck at this. I'm sorry, even serious adults in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on. People do not do well if they firmly believe something, and especially if it's part of their identity. They do not receive opinions well that are different than their own. It feels like a personal attack, and people have such a hard time admitting that they're wrong. And when I was younger, I did, but then once I realized that's a fault of humans, including myself, I just don't do it anymore. And if I ever accidentally go down that route where I'm starting to pretend like, no, wait a minute, this or that, I like to catch myself. It doesn't happen frequently anymore, but it's still part of human nature with me and you as well listening to this. But I like to catch myself so I can knock it the hell off. But then you get stuff like this, me blocking people that like XRP, because why? Opinions that are different than my own are dangerous, and I just don't want to hear it. It's ridiculous. I'll tell you what, the XRP community, it's a good group of people by and large. You can have bad apples in any group, but my gosh, talk about... You know what's different between like the Bitcoin community, one big thing, versus the XRP community? A lot of the Bitcoin community, the people that are there for ideology, their noise trumps everything else. They are some noisy people, and they are very noticeable, and there are a lot of them within that community. Whereas with XRP, man, I guess you could try and make a case there's tribalism in every crypto community. I guess you can. But I have to tell you, from my perspective, many people here... given that it's not some sort of ideology where we have like down with banks, down with the government, people, seriously, they're not coming from a place by and large, from what I see, where it's such a part of their identity that they feel need to attack other projects. You don't see that. You see XRP community members, bringing up logical points when the Bitcoin maxi trolls come out to defend the honor of Ripple and XRP, if you will. But you don't see them attacking, and it's easy for people within our XRP community to behave in more of an adult way, generally speaking, because we don't have that ideology. We don't have that trust issue with centralization within entities, including business, for example. Because what the hell is a decentralized business? What the hell is that even? There's no such thing. I mean, go ahead and create one day if you can figure out what the hell that even is. But businesses are centralized, okay? And... I just think that trust is required for many aspects of our life, and there are some aspects of life that can be better if you can minimize or eliminate the requirement of trust. But think about your local community. It's not bad to have trust in people and entities and organizations, generally speaking. That trust is what's allowed us to evolve as a species. So it's not the case that you have to decentralize everything. It's just a bunch of silliness from my perspective. And so I thought I'd take some time to speak through this. But these are two examples of the types of things that I see, and I just wish it would stop. Because if you're blocking people that have a different opinion than you, because there are all sorts of nice people in the XRP community, adult people, that you could learn from, even if you end up... Because disagreeing is fine, but if you're not willing to even learn what the opposing point of view is, like... This is bad. This is bad for any individual as a person that is not willing to even learn about an opposing viewpoint. Tell me what you think below. I would love to hear from you on this topic. But that is it for this video. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!